7 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Good evening, everybody. It's good to have you here for our Thursday night edition. 7 o'clock on the nose on the 19th day of June, 2025. It's a hot, balmy one, and I'm just happy to be in here with the air conditioner because I have not installed the air conditioners at home yet, except in Aurora's room. I put hers in a couple of weeks ago just for the hell of it, in case we had a heat wave. I can handle it. Lauren can handle it. But I don't want that cute little baby to have to sweat it out in a room without an air conditioner. So, what are we going to do tonight? Well, first of all, welcome to everybody who's watching. It is a Badlands night, so we have the added audience, a wonderful audience over there on Badlands Media on Rumble, to join ranks with all of our friends on Quite Frankly.tv, powered by Pilled. There's YouTube, there's the Quite Frankly Rumble, there's DLive, there's Twitter, and whatever the hell else. And I'm really... Kick. Hello, Kick. It's great to have you all around. We have a good guest in tonight, one we haven't seen in weeks. His name is Jay Gulinello, or whatever the hell you're going to call him tonight. It's still a very mysterious guy. He has a very mysterious past. Nobody knows really anything about him. Anyway, he comes here tonight to mystify you all. We're just going to talk about this and that. It's a little bit of an open book kind of a night. There's things going on in the world. There's things going on in our lives. There's time for calls. There's this and that. I've got some interesting news pieces I would love to hear Jay's thoughts on. So we'll get to those in due time. First, I would like to do a little bit of announcement. One announcement for our friends at Badlands. Here, there's another Great American Restoration Tour date on the books. And this one is, they're going back to Deadwood. Deadwood. The Deadwood, my friends. That's right. It's going to be from August, 14th to 17th, 2025, with featured speakers John Harold, Chris Paul, Burning Bright, Brad Zerbo, Zach Payne. Instead of a dunk tank this year, they're actually going to tie Zach up to a telephone pole, and people are just going to put on the 10-ounce gloves, and you get like one good shot wherever you want. I don't know why Zach does this to himself. I thought that the dunk tank was funny, but now he just wants people to punch him in the face while he's tied to a telephone pole. This is very strange what's happening over there at Badlands. I hope that things are all right behind the scenes. Anyway, all of your favorites and then some. So check it out. Inquire at badlandsmedia.tv/events. And hopefully, Zach survives this one. He keeps upping the ante. Obviously, he's got a penchant for the extreme. Okay. Is that all I have over here? Yeah, I saved everything else for after the intro, because why waste any time? And why waste any time? That's that. Okay. Well, we'll be right back, ladies and gents. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a fun one tonight. Indeedly-do.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's
So we're in Patriot mode. It's May, June, July. You start feeling star-spangled amazing, and you think about all the fighting that had to be done. Some of it justified. to get to where we are right now. There was a lot of pit stops along the way we probably could have avoided.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what everybody is wondering about where we are right now. Jay Gulinello, how the hell you doing?
Hi, Frank.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, man. I feel like it has been a while, but I'm not actually sure.
I don't know. It might have been May.
May? Okay. We're in June, so. Okay.
I don't think you were in here June.
No.
For any of June. So sometime in May.
Yeah.
But it's good to have you back.
Yeah, man. Good to be back.
And again, okay, so then I guess here's what I'd ask you.
Mm-hmm.
How you seeing things out there? How you I guess the big thing.
Can you narrow it down?
Questions people are really wondering right now is, are we about to really go off the rails and get lost into another big adventure in the Middle East? And everybody's got a theory, and I don't want to throw everything all out and say there's no hope because nothing's really happened just yet.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I didn't want to be talking about this for sure.
No, I know. It feels like there's so many more, I shouldn't say important things, but there are so many other things that are worthy of our time. But of course, sometimes your show just kind of takes on a life of its own because the news cycle dictates. And just to your point about no hope, I definitely am feeling actually more hopeful today than I had in a bit. As I was on my way in here, hearing Trump talk about 2 weeks to sort of see these negotiations through. I will say, I said this to you earlier, I said, this isn't exactly like a Cuban Missile Crisis moment because, there's not missiles, a few miles off the coast of Florida, but it's a similar point in history. I think people will look back on it depending on which way it goes. And I think that I do trust Trump's instincts. My question is, who's advising him and who's got his ear the most? And, those are the questions I have. For instance, what was it? You probably know more about this than I do, but how he was lied to about troops, either total troop.
In Syria?
Yeah, in Syria. Either the total amount or their placement or whatever. I mean, that's unforgivable to lie to the commander-in-chief. So, anybody would be susceptible to that. But if he is true to his instincts, which to me in my lifetime has been the most honest president in terms of peace, wanting peace, then I think we're in good hands. And I was encouraged today by the fact that he's kind of taunting the media, saying, you don't know what I'm going to do, right? And I don't know. I have an odd sense of peace, and I think both sides are going a little nutso. Some people are already accusing him of being a puppet of Israel, which is hysterical because I don't see that. I have no evidence for that. And then, there's the other side that's telling him, no more meetings. We know enough. We can predict the future, right? Iraq. We can predict the future. We know exactly what's going to happen, Iraq. And I just think he's sort of like finding his calm in the storm. And I don't know. I have a decent feeling about this. What do you feel?
Well, the people who are I just want the people who are excited about it to be let down. That's number one.
Oh, that's a whole crop of people I would love to see. I would love to piss in their Cheerios.
Yeah, that's me. I take hard stances on a lot of things on this show.
Yeah.
When I don't know enough, I find it a little bit harder to go out there and here's the way it is.
Yeah,
I more so try to on nights like that bring out whatever fragments of information I have, ask some open-ended questions, some of it rhetorical, others, much of it really just honestly asking to be able to get a conversation going with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, with things like this, I'm just generally anti-war.
Yeah.
So on one hand, for example, the big you want out of all of the food fighting that's going on in the media this week, the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz thing was the most entertaining.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
I saw on one hand I see why Ted Cruz, in that one specific clip about being asked what's the population of Iran, Ted Cruz thinking that being quizzed by Tucker Carlson on things like that, population size and all that stuff, is a little pedantic.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Tucker's right to say, hey, listen, if we're going to be in any way, shape, or form involved in regime change, or even if we're not, see, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Even if we're not, if it's somebody else's plan to topple a government of another country after the last 25 years of toppling governments and seeing what that has done to the West in particular with migrant crises and all that other stuff, it's very bad shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking about And it's mostly done by the people who are destroying countries too, destroying the said countries that then go and take their angry, displaced, refugee populations and bringing it back into host countries like ours, where they can, show everybody just how much they hate them.
Right.
They repay them in kind. So it's so crazy just to say. I say, well, I don't think it is actually that pedantic for Ted Cruz to ask things like that. How many people are you going to be potentially displacing when all of a sudden the only government they've ever known since 1979 is gone? And then I don't know.
No, Frank, I completely agree with you. And when I watched that, I could feel why Ted Cruz would feel the way he felt, but I also believe Tucker Carlson is a much larger intellect than Ted Cruz. And Tucker Carlson knew exactly where he was steering that, right? It really wasn't about the population number, although shocking that Ted Cruz didn't even have a guess. Like, he had no idea. And okay, fine. But Tucker Carlson's larger point obviously was, but it's about the makeup of the country and the massive size of the country, and where are those people going to go, and who follows this, and is there going to be infighting? Because the answer is probably yes. And we made all these mistakes 20 years ago. Why are you making this so simplistic, overly simplistic, and black and white, Ted Cruz? Right? And then, of course, you realize that, Ted Cruz is, sponsored by AIPAC, and he's I'm here to make Israel great again, Ted Cruz. So Tucker Carlson has that way of that Socratic method. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I think he picked the right scab to expose Ted Cruz. I don't necessarily feel like that part of it was a true, honest dialogue. I think Tucker was trying to expose him a bit, and he did.
Yeah, well, at least he didn't pull a Gary Johnson and didn't know what Aleppo was. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
They're talking about Syria, and Gary Johnson was one of those years he was running for president. He was the libertarian candidate. They brought up the city of Aleppo, and he was like, "What? Where's that? What's that? What are you talking about?" Anyway, I don't have any. Well, I have one clip over here
from that interview.
I do, but there's so much more. Like, I was listening to a few with Zach and Adel before. And the fencing that they were doing with, and this is why people are starting to really be fed up with Israel constantly. Mm-hmm. It's been like this way for a long time, but it's people have not been comfortable voicing, even rolling their eyes.
Right.
You didn't even want to be caught rolling your eyes. Oh God, again. But Ted Cruz was saying something like, nobody talks about undue influence with China or the British or blah, blah, blah. It's like, wait a second. I said, first of all, we were talking about undue influence. We're talking about China. When we brought up China in 2020, everybody called us racist.
Right.
Anti-Asian racist. Right. You started the Stop Asian Hate. Okay.
That didn't last very long.
No. Because they realized he was beating up the Asians, and they didn't want to get into that.
That's true.
That's another can to crack open.
That's another can of worms.
But they said, okay, and it wasn't even just about the Chinese. It was just about China, like Ukraine, being one of these places where there's not a lot of oversight, so we can go and have some, biological adventures, and we can go, there's no real ethical standards of anything like that. So we did try with that. Mm-hmm. The Russia gate thing, right? How much of Operation what is it? Paperclip Hurricane? What the hell is it fucking called again?
Crossfire Hurricane.
Crossfire Hurricane.
Yeah,
the British intelligence is all over that.
Yeah,
we were saying that too. I mean, London is when that little lunch with Joseph Mifsud and Stephen Halper was going on. You have all these Oxford people and MI6 and talking with their counterparts at the NSA over here. And it's not even just Christopher Steele. It was so much more. So
I hate that whole thing, Frank. I don't understand why we can't just separate this. I don't trust any government, including our own.
Yes.
So why do you have a problem with me not trusting the Israeli government? I don't trust any government.
I know, man.
I mean, what are you talking about, Ted Cruz?
That's why this is just my place in the whole thing. Is just I don't want to live in Iran. No? Iran. I have no affection for their ways, but I also know that whatever the hell it is drives that society is only in place because of our meddling in the past.
Absolutely.
So
they like to see these things in a vacuum, Frank,
I know,
though, right?
And what's actually kind of interesting, that I think that the Shah, the father, mm-hmm. I think that 1925 is when he was put in. So it's like 100 years.
Wow.
I think the son came into power around 40, 41.
Okay.
And then that lasted until 79.
Right.
But I think the father was put, and this you're talking about all Western influence.
Yeah.
This is oil and petroleum interests. I think that BP, that was that it was. But it's crazy. It's actually probably 100 years on the nose that we installed the Shah, and I just don't see this turning. In being nervous about this and be like, oh shit. I don't see it on turning one's back on Trump per se. On the contrary, I don't want to see the man derailed any more than he's already been derailed by the domestic terrorists we have in Congress.
And that's the big thing. So many good things are happening at home in a variety of ways. And this, you could look at this as a distraction. It's not solely a distraction, but the side benefit for people who are anti-Trump would be this is a good distraction from all the positive things because it's dominating the news cycle.
That's why Democrats have been mum.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yep. Nothing.
Like never interrupt an enemy when they're destroying themselves, right? I mean, that's what I would do.
That's what they think, at least.
Right. I mean, that's the tact that I would take if I were them. But I don't know. I just don't feel like we're being told the truth, Frank. We talked about this. This has so many eerie similarities to early 2000s, 9/11, October 7th. So many similarities between those two events. And then this sort of offensive, struggle. And there is just it started off being about, and I remember last Thursday you had some calls on this or maybe it was Friday because I think it broke like while you were on the air on Thursday, I think. And whatever the next day you were taking calls, people were saying, well, if it's only about taking out the nuclear, and that's not what it's about. You've got Netanyahu going on Fox saying, oh, well, actually maybe they're more like 12 or 13 months. Well, we're not really sure. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Well, you've been saying that for 30 years. There's tapes of it. It's kind of like, it's a little embarrassing. It's like the climate change thing, right? Well, you only got 10 years left. We only got 5 years left. So that's the little boy who cried wolf. I know that we're not being told the entire story. And here's the thing. The bombs have already dropped, Frank. So if there is proof, right? I absolutely concede the fact that you and I are not the president. We are not getting daily briefings. If there is something imminent and that strike needed to happen 1 week ago today, well, why wouldn't you share that? Because that's only going to bolster your public position on this. The bombs have already dropped. There's no more sneak attack by Israel. Now you can let us know this is why we did this, but it's still not coming out and no one's asking the question. And that's my concern because it reminds me of everything that happened in weapons of mass destruction. It reminds me of everything that happened in Iraq and how much we got bogged down there. And all these idiots like Ted Cruz and Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham and all these war whores who say, oh, it's going to be no big deal. It's going to be easy. It's going to be quick. I can't believe they're saying that again after what we just witnessed in Iraq and Afghanistan. You have no idea it's going to be easy and quick. You have no clue what you're dealing with.
Well, you can go and make the case that easy and quick makes the least amount of money.
That's
mean, you think about how we set up shop and in the Middle East out there, and what we were really doing in Afghanistan for 20 years.
Right, easy and quick doesn't benefit anybody except the people.
But to your point about everything else, I mean, we still haven't seen the definitive proof that there was a gas attack in Syria.
I know. I know.
We haven't seen that. And they're promising that, that they're in the briefs. We can't show you. Why? Why?
I know. And now we're relying on Israeli intelligence, that say, no, I'm pretty sure. And you've got even people like General Flynn saying, well, their intelligence is fantastic. And I'm like, you mean the intelligence that had a catastrophic failure on October 7th? Failure? Because I still don't think we know the truth about that.
This is why a lot of people would push back on you and saying that there is no undue influence on the president by way of Israel, that he's not open to it or does not have the same kind of affections that past presidents have had as well. That perhaps maybe he sees that this, and I hope, because that would mean that finally somebody's trying to turn the page here. That maybe he sees that this tit for tat, hand in glove relationship needs to end.
Yeah.
And that nations, if they are in fact free, sovereign, independent, big boy and girl nations, are going to just have to be on their own to be good friends and neighbors, and also defend themselves when you have to, without having American junkyard dogs being their protectors in all matters till the end of time. And I really do believe that this is an end of time timeline.
Yes. And if it doesn't mean that you're not, I mean, it's like if you had a family member, a cousin or something, somebody used this analogy. I thought it was brilliant. It's like you have a 5'2" cousin who's got a big mouth at a bar. And every time you go out to the bar, he's picking a fight with the bouncer. Is it your job to constantly go in there? Or once in a while, do you need to say, hey man, you got yourself into this mess. This was not only was it not necessary in my opinion, it also wasn't, what specifically I mean is it wasn't necessary at that time. You were 3 days away from peace talks. And Trump had said, I can't have peace talks this Sunday after this bombing run on Thursday because now all the people I was talking to are dead. So if I were a gambling man, I would say, well, maybe Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want peace. He uses geopolitical distractions every time he is in trouble domestically. If you've noticed that over his career. Oh, there's a problem. Well, let's get into some kind of conflict because nothing rallies people around the flag like a foreign conflict.
Well, I brought it up just a couple of days ago when I saw the New York Post article quoting Benjamin Netanyahu from an interview, asserting that, hey, these are the people in Iran who tried to have Trump assassinated.
Yeah, I don't.
And again, I mean, I was looking around for any kind of comments that Trump might have made since this latest conflict, this volley, this exchange of missiles had kicked off. I haven't been able to find anything, but I want to just be able to gauge whether or not he actually believes that.
And if it were true, Frank, evidence of that, because Benjamin Netanyahu has presented no evidence for anything that he's doing. But if he had evidence of that, that would be another way to lock the U.S. into this. You can't go after a U.S. president, but there's no proof. That's just words. What, like you had said, are they able to get, this is like the Kennedy assassination all over again. Are they able to get the Secret Service to basically turn into a bunch, to like the Keystone Cops that day? Are they able to do all the things that were necessary? Maybe, but why can't we have the proof of all of these things? We're about to be dragged into some kind of catastrophic conflict. No. And again, Netanyahu still hasn't apologized for goading us into the Iraq war, right? He promised everything was going to be wonderful once we got rid of Saddam Hussein. Yeah, that destabilized the entire region. If Saddam Hussein were alive today, things might be very different with Iran. They were a check on each other. So these people don't think long-term. Human beings in general don't have that capacity. It's a learned capacity. Biologically, we're not long-term thinkers necessarily. Our bodies think in the long term and act biochemically in the long term, but we are not necessarily long-term thinkers. We are immediate survivalists because that's been our history. But when you start to get engaged in conflicts like this and you don't think long-term, that's why Tucker's questions were so poignant. Do you even care what happens after this regime change? No one can answer that.
Then that's the thing here too. Hopefully, whatever happens, and we'll find out one way or another because we're surely not being brought into the Situation Room. Right. But we'll find a way one way or another. Hopefully, we have little to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But if what is being proposed, even just by Israel, takes place, if it causes any kind of regional destabilization, like we've seen whether it be Syria, whether it be Iraq, whether it be, I don't know. I mean, you go throughout Libya, North Africa, wherever the hell shit like this has happened in the past. I mean, Europe today is a good example why another country falling in the Middle East would be a very bad thing, no matter who did it.
Yes.
No matter who did it.
Exactly.
So because who's going to play host?
Yeah.
Who's going to play host to all that stuff? And first of all, Saddam Hussein would be 88 years old today if he wasn't executed in 2006. Oh. I had to go check that. So it would probably have been Uday or Qusay that had taken over, but they were killed as well.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he was a good guy, but we have to understand that there are consequences to everything. You're never going to get perfect. Stop trying to find perfect. Stop trying to nation build and export democracy around the globe. Are we just living through the George W. Bush presidency again?
I mean, he was one side of the Iran-Iraq war that we were playing both sides on.
Yeah, exactly.
The people we were dealing with the first time were still around in Iran.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is why this whole thing is bullshit. So geopolitically, there's one thing. Then because then Ted Cruz went and said this, I don't know. Listen to this. Hold on. Ready? This is when it's just, I was left aghast. Just aghast.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
This is a very evangelical way of looking at this shit. Okay. And
I just got such a problem with this.
Okay, me too. Oh, me too. Now listen.
What's that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean,
Tucker?
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yet nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's referring
of Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
I mean, okay.
Wow.
Listen, I don't like. Dude, I don't even know where to go. Well, I do know where I want to go with this. First of all, I always say, and there's a lot of people from different faith persuasions, Christian denominations out there and whatever. This is an outlook that has mainly rooted itself in all different Protestant churches. There's a great deal who have caught on to this, but there are others that are just like, where Israel goes, I go. It's very bad. To go back for him to make this claim is incredible. And it's another reason why, I was reading recently a little bit more on Pope Pius X, and this meeting that was had in Rome with with Theodore Herzl. He was what do you say? He was a journalist, considered like one of the OG Zionists out there, and he was trying to gain recognition from powerful people and also special interests around the world for the establishment of a Zionist nation. And when he went to Rome, he got BTFO. Okay, and it was incredible. It's incredible to just see the stance. I'm just going to read something. I had to go and grab this when I saw this.
Sure.
Okay. It's in 1904. And this is only actually a couple of months before Herzl's death. He died at like age 44. Okay. He went to the Vatican and he met with not only the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Mary de Val, but also he met with Pope Pius X. This is why Pope Pius is seen as like an all-time badass. Herzl asked for Vatican diplomatic support to further the international recognition of the Zionist cause. In response, the cardinal said the following. Now, think about how straightforward this is, and it's very provocative. But at the same time, if you're a Christian, it's not provocative. It's just the tenets of your faith. And it's also geopolitically logical in that respect, because Jerusalem is our holy land. I mean, that's our holy land. Jesus sanctified that land but that was where his ministry took place. His death, resurrection. I mean, so the whole thing here So he goes to the Vatican saying, we'd love your support in having this place, set up one day in our name. And here's what the cardinal said. I do not quite see how we can take any initiative in this matter. As long as the Jews deny the divinity of Christ, we certainly cannot make a declaration in their favor. Not that we have any ill will toward them. On the contrary, the church has always protected them. To us, they are the indispensable witnesses to the phenomenon of God's term on earth. But they deny the divine nature of Christ. How can we then, without abandoning our own highest principles, agree to their being given possession of the Holy Land again? And the Pope goes even further. The transcript of this went back. Pius X went even further in just being, not combative, but just saying we simply
matter
can't,
of fact,
we can't do this. We simply can't do this. And they say it's unpleasant to us to know that it's in the hands of the Ottomans right now as well. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we're going to sign off on you guys taking it. It's this land was sanctified by our Lord, and you don't recognize. So you see, there are.
It's so interesting.
It's very interesting, especially when you see people coming to the table and just representing their interests and being completely solid on who they are and how they represent themselves without being acting murderous towards somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at this and I look back at these exchanges from that standpoint, and I said that's really interesting. But when you really think about how it translates geopolitically, it's the same thing right now with foreign aid, foreign interests, and why are some nations, some civilizations made to make all the concessions in the world to abandon their best interests in lieu of what? I mean, what? I'm saying this geopolitically. Aside from getting maybe intelligence sharing from Israel, what's their chief export? I don't know. Do they grow avocados? Or I don't care. I mean, because whatever you come to the market with, we trade. But it seems like all we do is trade in bombs with everybody. And I don't care. Like I said, Israel's just one of hundreds of countries out there. I don't want special treatment of Italy, of Austria, of Belgium. I just don't want any of that stuff.
I agree.
The suicide pacts that we have with NATO. I just want to, I want to withdraw from the world to the degree that, we're just not constantly dealing in weapons and defense business. And I want to eliminate all types of foreign aid. But it's just so hard to represent yourself without being called an anti-something.
I know, it's just, yeah. That was what I wanted to actually start this with, and I forgot to do it. But when you asked, what I thought of all this, I feel like we are in the middle of this thing. And I found this interesting psychological principle, and I've been saying it wrong for the last 2 days because I just found it 2 days ago. I've been calling it the tantrum fallacy, but it's not. It's the tantrum fallacy. So I just was reading it. My mind wanted to read that as tantrum, but you'll understand why. So let me just read you this real quick, and you can just use this as a tool to understand the world around you, because I think this is what we're experiencing. And when I read this, you'll think of probably somebody will come to your mind. Somebody immediately came to my mind when I was reading it. But the tantrum fallacy occurs when a speaker abandons rational discourse entirely and substitutes emotional volatility, insults, and performative outrage for argument. It is not a derivative of ad hominem. It includes ad hominem as one of its weapons, alongside appeals to fear, ridicule, and sheer noise. The goal is not persuasion, but submission through overwhelm. And the signatures include, but are not limited to, ad hominem personal attacks, appeal to emotion, usually anger, fear, or disgust, red herring, derailing and emotional misdirection, argument from volume, shouting or repetition, and virtue signaling. I care more than you, therefore I'm right. Often signals epistemic retreat. The person has lost the ability or the willingness to reason. I mean, I think it's amazing, and
that was essentially in every clip I saw from the ground from the No King's Day.
what's great, Frank? I meant to say this right before after the intro. So I forgot you had this in your intro. I was listening to that episode the other night that you did when you were showing. I laughed. So I was out for a walk and I was listening to you in headphones and I was laughing. People, if they saw me, they must have thought I was crazy. I was just laughing, like thinking I was listening to a comedian. You were playing that clip of that woman draped over the hood of the 18-wheeler. Let my people go, that woman.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing.
Mosette, I called her.
And it was so funny because she's so completely hysterical. She has no idea what she's even talking about, right? She's like a little child that like, a child will argue and then they get so worked up about it that they forget even what the argument was. Now they're just into the argument for the sake of the argument now. But in your intro, I just felt like this is where society has gone. She reminded me of Tank Man. And you have Tank Man in the intro to your show. And that man, that was courage. He was standing up against actual, totalitarian dictatorship. Him and his family were probably murdered after that. No one actually knows what happened to Tank Man, right? That guy stood up in front of a line of Chinese tanks that were coming, the Chinese military coming to exterminate Chinese citizens who were unarmed. Tiananmen Square was unbelievable. And then we have come to this place. This woman with all of her, they love to throw around the word privilege. This woman with all of the opportunity in the world in this country, right? She sounded like she was, born and raised here, thinking she's fighting the good fight against the dictator Donald Trump. And it's just wild. The guy who was elected with the majority popular vote, the electoral college, in every way you cannot be a dictator and a king, he is that, and she's draped over the hood of that. And I just couldn't help but think poor Tank Man, wherever he is like rolling in his grave. He was actually standing up for his people and she's making a mockery of protest and freedom.
Well, I've said this many, and that's the reason why in the title of the show tonight, it's a little bit of fantasy and reality. This is largely a big fantasy for them.
Yeah.
And I
cosplay.
think it's cosplay, and obviously they have invested a lot. That almost like that Bill Hicks bit about this is a ride. Hey, don't screw. Don't tell me. Tell me anything that's going to screw up my ride. I have a lot invested in this ride.
Yeah.
Some people's ride is a little bit more wholesome than others. And other people's ride is they are on the battlefront of an ongoing civil rights war that is not going to end until every child is, I don't know, liberated from what? I don't know. It's
until every child is trans or every child is, but there'll always be something, Frank.
But that's what I'm saying. This is the fantasy end of it.
Yeah.
That girl that strapped that just threw herself onto the front of that truck and grabbed onto the light fixtures and was screaming, "Let my people go."
I said the same thing you did at the same time. I was like, "Who are your people?"
Who are your people? But she knew. Here's the thing: she knew somebody was filming.
That's true.
This was a performance. This was something that hopefully will be and not to say that she wasn't mentally and emotionally invested in this being real, but there's also a performative end to all of it.
So do you think, I'm just curious, do you think that some of these protests would be less likely to occur if we were in a different time when there was, you could even say before there was even any kind of recording devices at all? I just wonder about that. Maybe you're right, because I never really thought about the performative aspect, but now you see when something happens in the world, the first thing you see less people rushing to help or rushing to intervene and more people reaching for their devices to record. And I'm not so sure that's a good thing for humanity either. But I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think that a larger aspect of the performative aspect of the protesting is because it will get them notoriety or it makes them, as a form of virtue signaling? Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah. No, absolutely. There is it's almost, I use the term quite a bit, but it becomes a feedback loop. If a tree falls in the middle of the forest and nobody's around to hear it, did it ever really fall?
Yeah.
You have a lot of people show up to watch the trees fall now.
Yeah.
Because they, and it's just, hey, I don't know. The media has been a main driver in all this. In fact, it was part of that blog that we put together about feedback loops and automated systems that really have driven the stock market for so long, and how it has also been applied in that way on an algorithmic level into selling narratives, not only just selling stock, but also in selling narratives on the internet, because with all that stuff, with one cause or another comes different types of financial transactions, and it's essentially like tiny little cults, and we know how everybody bubbles up and clumps up into their own little echo chambers on the internet, and those environments, it's almost like multiverse theory. Yeah. Those little universes, they're self-containing. And I think that it gets pretty volatile, and when it pops off, it attracts a large crowd very quickly, at least online. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big aspect to it, and there's a lot of people who don't have a lot to live for anymore. I was gonna say, I guess that's the other aspect of it. But I think you're right. I mean, I think, as human beings, we do tend to it's easier to put yourself in a box because it gives you structure. A box gives you boundaries. It gives you, and I think, like, in some ways, they always say about dogs, dogs actually like the discipline. They're healthier when they have rigidity. And I think to some degree, human beings are similar. It is safer. Like a baby tends to cry less when they're swaddled. And I mean, like, wrapped up tight, because they feel that constriction. That's a positive for them, but we outgrow that eventually. But as psychologically, I think as we get older, we tend to put ourselves in boxes because it's easy to do, and it also feels comfortable and safe. But in moments like this, I think it's really important to be aware that you may put yourself in a box, and also be aware of who gets in that box with you. And the point I'm trying to make here is that if you find yourself, and this is not right or wrong, but it's just something to make you think. If you find yourself on the same side of an issue as the people who have been wrong about everything for the last 20 years and all the warmongers, right? If you're on a side of something with the Lindsey Grahams of the world, right? And the people who just want death and war, they never met a war they didn't like, you're on the side of Fox News, right? What you have to assess now, who else is in that box with you, and whether you belong in that box, or whether you put yourself in that box or someone else put you in that box. Because I'm not denying the fact that world events can create strange bedfellows, but it should at least give you pause. Anytime I find myself, generally speaking, at odds with like one thing or another, and then all of a sudden I find myself in the same place as them, I immediately take close examination of, well, is this really what I think? And am I in the right place, or am I just reflexively acting because I know X, Y, and Z? And I just think it's a really good exercise to do. And to be clear, I'm not anti anything necessarily in an absolute term. I just feel my heart breaks for the innocent civilians of Iran, the innocent civilians of Israel. They didn't ask for this. And I think when I was here during Trump's CNN town hall before the election, they tried to goad him into that same kind of infantile black or white question. Who do you want to win the war? Russia or Ukraine? Like, that's what a third grader says. And you're supposed to be an adult. And Trump had the best. I remember I saw that with you live. We watched it, and it was like, that was the best answer ever. I just want people to stop dying. And I said, that's my guy. If that's what he believes and that's his instinct, that's exactly how I feel. I don't have an allegiance to Iran. I don't have an allegiance to Israel. I don't even trust the American government. I just want people to stop dying. And it seems like we forget the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu also sold out his entire nation to Pfizer during COVID. I don't trust that guy as far as I can throw him. I think he only cares about himself. He's been a liar his entire political career. I don't like him. I don't trust him. And by the way, Donald Trump doesn't trust him either, because if you remember a few months ago, he was asked by a media member, do you trust Benjamin Netanyahu? And his answer was, I don't trust anybody. And I loved that answer too, because I don't trust any of those people either. So I just hope that, going back to what you asked me originally, that Trump has surrounded himself with some good people, like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy was surrounded by a bunch of really scary military men that wanted to do a nuclear exchange because they said we could win a nuclear exchange, meaning that we would just suffer less casualties. That's their idea of winning the military in some ways. And he had really, if you read Ted Sorenson's notes, he really only had
Bobby Kennedy Sr. He only had Bobby there to say, I don't know about this. And I just pray that Donald Trump has that same voice, whether it's J.D. Vance, whoever it is, somebody in his ear that can really reach him and say, is this the best thing for us, for the world, for everything? Or are we just being led around by some kind of a psychopathic liar and a whole bunch of actual psychopaths like the Mark Levins, like the Lindsey Grahams, like all these people who don't care about human life. They only care about death and destruction.
I know. And we'll see. I know what everybody hopes is the case, but like everything else, we've had to wait and see because we're not part of the decision-making process. And when it all shakes out, we'll be able to write a review at the end.
We'll do it.
Here's another example before we move on to, I don't know, a few other things. Here is another example of your, what'd you call it? The tantrum?
The tantrum fallacy.
The tantrum fallacy, you could call it.
And we're rebranding.
This is, I swear to God that this was shared by Representative Eric Swalwell. Okay, this is, you want to talk about another fantasy versus reality? Here's a deportation fantasy that liberals are, I don't know who put this together, but it's official enough for him to think that this is a provocative message that needs to be seen by everybody. So it's a young guy, for those of you in podcast land, a young guy and a young girl. They seem like they just went on a very satisfying date or whatever. And suddenly, a seemingly perfectly day is going to be upset by the brute, hateful thugs that are now following Donald Trump's orders to clean out the country.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really like.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
Wow.
I mean,
Eric Swalwell has no shame. Obviously.
On one hand, I want them to produce 24 of those.
Yeah, because they're such a joke. Yeah.
I want to I want to watch them before I go to sleep.
Wow.
They're just so hilarious.
Yeah, you do reels on Friday sometimes with Matt. You guys should watch those things. They're hysterical.
God, if they would just make it. Who made it? Who made this? This was paid for by, I don't know. Hold on, wait. This was paid for by, who the hell was it? Who the hell cares? I just hope they make more.
That's incredible. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with it. I mean, it's just, I guess you could just keep lying over and over again, and eventually some people are going to believe it. And actually, that is how it works, really. I've seen this with the media. They just continue to bang on one particular drum or another. It doesn't even matter whether it's been, provably false. It's been false forever, but no, it's okay. We're just going to still put it out there. We don't care that she's American. What are you talking about? Are we talking about Maryland Man?
I love
Is that what we're talking about?
I love what he says. Wait, she was born here.
Oh my!
She's an American citizen. So first of all, right there, she was born here. She's a citizen.
Yeah.
What is? Okay, wait. She was born here and is a citizen, or what is the inference that because she was born here, she is a citizen? There's no, it doesn't matter. She looks like one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
so whatever that means, it seemed like the Republican in that skit was willing to take American citizens, people who are citizens,
yeah,
who are on the books, who are here, they're citizens, naturalized. That they're willing to just send anybody off who looks like they may be illegal.
Well, I mean, Frank, in all fairness, I mean, and if we do that, who's gonna work the fields?
I know.
Who's gonna clean the toilets?
I know, and because they keep coming back to that. Who is going to do all of our menial labor that nobody should ever lower themselves to work the fields again.
I heard, I think it might have been the View. I would never spend a half a second. The only View clips I ever see are when people are making fun of the View. That's as much as
or when Arnold Schwarzenegger goes on.
Yeah, right. Who horrified them, which was hysterical. But one of the dimwits, which they're all the same, so it doesn't even matter what her name was. I don't know her name, but they're all the same. Said something about dairy farms, and And this, this really like resonates with me because I've been to dairy farms. I've spoken with farmers. They take great pride in what they do. They deliver an incredibly valuable service. They deliver an incredibly nutritious product for humans to consume. It's an incredible thing that they do, and it is hard work. And she was like denigrating it and saying it's horrible work that nobody would want to do. I'm like, these are farmers that are feeding you absolute ingrate. I don't even know the words to describe these women. They're so pathetic. And of course, their seal clapping audience. That's so true. It's really remarkable. I mean, these people don't even know where their food comes from. They're the people that say their food comes from the supermarket. That's these people.
That's it. I mean, it doesn't get any more enlightened than that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was funny when Arnold Schwarzenegger went on, and they thought that they were going to have somebody that is just going to help them hate on the administration, and and here he is talking about the need for legal immigration and for not causing trouble, to be a well-behaved guest,
right?
And and I saw Sonny. There's one clip of Sonny Hostin like putting her hand on Arnold's arm, like, dial it back, old man. We need you back. Hold on, you're going to a place we can't follow.
You're going off the reservation.
We can't follow where you're going.
We didn't sign on for this. It's not in the script.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's funny. Again, I said this to you before the show. I mean, that's the first time I've heard Arnold Schwarzenegger say anything remotely intelligent in like half a decade. So, good for him. Because I assumed he would. I assumed the same thing they probably did, that he would get up there and just rattle off some BS that's not relevant. But he actually put them in their place, which was it. I don't know who the redhead. I don't know any of their names. The redhead, Joy, maybe her name is Joy.
Joy Behar.
Yeah. The look of horror on her face. That was, I saw that clip and I was like, whoa, she's like freaking out right now. She's totally still, but she is freaking out on the inside. I could tell. Tell.
You can see the bubbling.
Yeah.
The bubbling.
It was wild.
It does. It is. Yeah. And now, okay, so listen, everybody, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go on a really quick break. I have to pay a little bit of well-deserved attention to a Badlands sponsor. But listen, on the other side of the intermission, my friends, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your calls. We're going to read your super chats. Also, every super chat that I'm logging all the super chats here from YouTube, from quitefranklysuperchat.com, which is where the most of your super chat goes right to the show without any interference. But still, it doesn't matter where. Contribute however you can. YouTube, quitefranklysuperchat.com, through the Badlands Rumble or through the Quite Frankly Rumble, whatever it is, pilled. I'm putting all of your names into the name picker, and whoever wins at the end of the night, I'll take two winners. The first winner is going to get one of these authentic SpaceX mission patches with a round of silver, an ounce of silver from Tony at quitefrankly.gold. So doesn't matter. You put in a small little super chat, say something for the show, and then you're in the running for a ounce of silver and a SpaceX patch. The second round, the second place winner is going to get a 2017 copy of my band's album, as well as some Keto Brainz and whatever the hell else I can find around the house. Stickers.
Can you autograph the album and the Keto Brainz?
Well, see, I mean, I guess I can do the album. I just have to take the shrink wrap, the plastic off of it.
Nah, it's probably better to have it that way.
Right.
Intact, yeah.
I remember we went to a show once. We were on the bill, but we were playing with this local punk band that my buddy Mike really liked. And so while we were up on stage doing our thing, he went to the punk band's merch booth, grabbed an album, got the album signed, and then when we got off the air, we got off the stage and we packed up the cars and all that, and we're just chilling and watching the rest of the show. Mike comes up to us. He goes, "Yeah, man, look, I got them to sign the album." We looked at it. I said, "Wait a second." I said, they signed it on top of the plastic. He said, well, he goes, well, yeah. So I said, well, then you
got to buy another one.
I said, A, it's going to eventually fade off of the plastic, and B, now you're not going to be able to listen to the album. And he kind of looked like, oh yeah,
I
You're right.
didn't like them anyway.
So I think you took it off and asked him to sign it again.
Oh, that's funny.
On the inside of the album art and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm going to give away some silver tonight. So if you want to be in the running, send over a super chat. We're going to read them on the other end of there. But for now, how about some word from My Fireside, proudly American made. Fire pits crafted from 100% heavy gauge stainless steel for unmatched durability. Full customizable with interchangeable plates. They're built to last. Unlike competitors' closed box designs, their fire pits deliver 360 degrees of radiant heat. That's what you need. Wow. That's what you need, so you don't have to hang your feet on top of it and get you know.
A good idea.
As a veteran-owned, operated company, they even include a free pocket declaration of independence and constitution with every order. So go check them out, badlandsmedia.tv/fire. Badlandsmedia/fire. That's
Those
Badlands
burgers.
Media. I know the burgers look good.
They look good.
Everybody likes it. Badlandsmedia.tv/fire. Go ahead, light yourself a fire. You know what I actually got?
What?
That I got to give away. I'll do it next. Maybe I'll do it next week. I got these 2 packets of, I don't know, it's like a powdered chemical something. And I don't know what it is. It might be completely toxic.
Probably.
But apparently it's this stuff, these little packets that you, maybe it's like Pop Rocks or something. You open it up and you pour it out into the fire, like if you have a fire pit. And apparently, maybe it's a little bit of magnesium, a little bit whatever, but it changes colors.
Yes, I've seen those.
You've seen it?
Yes.
Have you ever seen it work?
Yes, actually.
Is it fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like sparkler level fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I got 2 packets that was sent to me, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give these away too.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a fire pit presently, and I have a propane one, which I wouldn't put that on top of a propane one. You got to do it like you would.
Same. Yeah.
So I'll bring that in, and I'll give that away too.
That's fun, especially around the 4th of July.
I know.
Yeah.
You got to do fire related stuff on the 4th of July.
Oh, we're getting so close.
I know. Just don't be like that guy, the Brooklyn Dodger guy that blew his arm off. Right after the Dodgers won the World Series, there was this video of this guy in Los Angeles. They were in the middle of the streets in Los Angeles, and everybody's doing their little bit of, they're having their fun. This one guy is, lighting probably like a pineapple of dynamite.
Like an N80, yeah.
And I guess he just mistimed with the fuse, and there was a big disoriented explosion. And all of a sudden, once the cameraman came back to reassessing what the hell just happened, that one guy obviously is completely in a daze. But his hand was like Toxic Avenger shit. I mean, it was fucked up.
No.
Be careful, everybody.
Yeah.
I love fireworks as well, but make sure you get punks on everything. You just get added fuses to everything. Just be as careful as you can.
That reminds me when we were kids. My next door neighbor, he was like a guy. He was like the older kid in the neighborhood. Like he was still a kid, but he was definitely older than us. I don't even know the age difference. It was probably only like 5 years. But when you're a kid, if you're 5 years older, it seems like you're an adult. Anyway, he always had fireworks, and so I would always go over and beg him to let me. Come on, man. Come on. Let me just light something. And he, I don't think he wanted to give a bunch of little neighborhood kids fireworks, but he did. And our favorites were Roman candles because you could light them, put them in the ground, and have fun with them, or
shoot them at each other.
Yeah, you could shoot them at each other. So we used to do Roman candle tag. That was always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
What is wrong with us?
Roman candle. I mean, on the beach. On the beach, you're just firing Roman candles at each other. I've only done that once or twice.
Yeah.
And again, the things that you did that we never thought, don't worry about it, pussy.
Oh,
but
so stupid.
I have quite a few Roman candles still. I have a couple of packets of bottle rockets. I have a few mortars, but I need more. I was thinking about taking a quick drive to Philadelphia, and I don't know, just seeing what's going on over there.
I know it's one of going to be the other perks of moving to New Hampshire. It's all legal up there. So
are you getting closer to?
I mean, I've been trying for a long time. Everybody knows that, but I mean, I'm chomping at the bit, and when it happens, you can come up. We can do a Roman candle battle.
You got it. You got it. I'll put a welder's mask on Aurora,
Yeah.
on Aurora, because
Careful, Daddy.
I'm sure she's going to want to do it too.
Yep.
I would have a Roman candle fight. Anyway,
They really are fun.
well, when we come back, we're going to get through your super chats and everything else. Well, don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on, wait a second. What did I set this up all right?
Are we going to
Hold
have to sing the intermission again?
I don't. Hopefully that's not the case.
I remember I was watching that night when none of the audio was playing for you.
I know.
That sucks.
I don't know what the hell happened. I really don't know, because sometimes it just restarted and works. I think this should work. We'll be right. Happy Thursday, Frank and Jay. Djibouti. Don't stay gone so long. We miss you.
Oh.
There you Yeah, I know. He's a great guest.
You guys can guess my name even when I'm not here if you want. Just throw in a random super chat. I'm usually listening. If I'm working, I have Frank on in the background. So 9 times out of 10, I'm listening.
Yeah, see? He's there. He never calls in, though. He never calls in.
So I always forget. I feel like, what number do I call? Do I call your cell phone?
Actually, you know what? If you wanted to, like, Lauren, people will text or something just to make way. Like, hey, I got something breaking. Watch out for this area code or something. Okay. So if it's something like that, for sure. Stove says, evening, Frank and Jay. Great Thursday, gents. Thank you. Bullish Brown on YouTube says, great show, Frank. Thank you, Bullish. Thank you so much. Dances with squirrels.
That's good.
Dances with squirrels says, pick me. You're already in. Let's see. And then Joe Martinez, thank you. Shotzi says, another great evening of Quite Frankly. Thanks, Frank and Jay.
Absolutely.
Road Trip says, bunker busters are 95% safe and effective. That's a good one.
That's a very good one.
Apparently they are. What I heard is that bunker busters are actually 2 missiles, 2 bombs. The first bomb is almost like a penetrating, it opens up to the earth, and the second bomb gets really in there. It's like a suppository.
But apparently they don't have as much explosive power. It's more about the fact that they're like 30,000 pounds dropped from 30,000 feet. Which is
okay.
Big deal.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to bomb into a mountain.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay Bretz says, finally, jalapeno Gulinello is back.
That's another new one. I don't think I've heard that one before.
You were missed. And then Brian Mullaney says, for part 3 of the Mark from Michigan interview, you should have him in your studio with special guest co-host Willie Fixit. Radio Gold, Frank.
Frank, you can take the night off.
you know what it'd be like? Here's what it'd be like. So I would have Willie over there where you're sitting. I would have Mark from Michigan over here to my left. And then by 9:30 or so p.m., the camera switches over to me, and I look like one of One-Eyed Willie's pirates in the Goonies. And I'm just sitting there, skeleton or something like that. Oh man, I had a lot of fun last night, but it was funny. It was funny. The attempts to try to wrap it up was very funny. I got home and I gave Lauren an earful.
I'm sure. You ever see that scene in UHF, the Weird Al movie UHF? You win a drink from the fire hose. That's what the information was great, but it was just like, holy mackerel, like a wall of information that took no form, shape, or structure that we could which is like unfortunate, because it's obviously this man is incredibly dialed in and tuned in, and I really enjoy listening to him. But it was
like I said, I love him. I love when he calls in, and I love to. I want to keep talking to him, but I still have a half a page worth of notes from the first night.
It's not easy to distill things down, honestly.
No, and I understand. Listen, I'm a storyteller. I understand the importance of setting the stage, but we can't do side quests too much.
No, and when you know that that you're on a radio show with a format and there's a time structure, you have to know how to triage. You have to know to get to a point. But
we'll get there.
But it was great.
All I cared about last night was as long as we got to Alex Jones, Bill Cooper, and Art Bell.
Yeah, that was interesting about Art Bell.
Yeah, I want that whole thing. Well, here's the thing with Art Bell, and too. because you and I listen to the same Art Bell rerun station, the U7 radio on TalkStream Live. It's nonstop. The main reason why I listen is because I think it's just fantastic, especially when they go to open lines and it's just everything is a time capsule.
Yeah.
You're able to gauge the response of not only young boomers, people in their 30s and just entering in their 40s there in the 90s, but also a lot of people in our grandparents' generation who are still in in their 60s and heading into their 70s and calling up, and they're vital and they're whatever, and they're still actually holding office and shit. And to see again levels of trust, and also gauging all these years later how much people were being influenced. It's someone at Art Bell's level. Mark seemed to think that he was gotten to, and whatnot, to go to the Philippines and then come back. And I never saw anything weird about those years in the Philippines from what I've listened to. I mean, I've heard so many episodes now. This is Art Bell live from Manila. Right. He never like disappeared. He's famous for retiring all the time.
He's done that a few times.
And he's had but he seems to be very anti-conspiracy theory.
Which is wild considering what he's kind of known for.
Yeah.
Or I will frame it like this. I think his conspiracies have boundaries and they're very defined. And I noticed that he was very much anti all of the sort of like ground up movements. He always was on the side of the government and always deferred to the government and couldn't entertain, really had a hard time entertaining any of the 9/11 things. And that plays into today too, Frank, like as an unintentional segue, people that I really respect, but if they still think that 9/11 was a bunch of Islamic people in a cave with box cutters, right? Like if that's all you are allowing yourself to think, I'll use someone as an example who I actually really respect, but I think this hamstrings him when it comes to things like what's going on with Israel and Iran today. Rudy Giuliani. And I think because he was so personally involved in that he can't bring himself to accept that there could be another narrative. I mean, he still runs around saying, thank God that George W. Bush was president.
People think that there are plenty of people out there who think that he was a lot more than just intimately involved with the running of New York. I think there's people who put him into that category of people who have magically had other things to do that morning and they broke from routines and shit.
Okay, so I've not heard that, but anything is possible. I'm incredibly open-minded. Show me what you mean by that, and I would absolutely digest that. But if that's not the case, and it's truly just a matter of, I see this a lot with people who were directly involved with 9/11. It's why we don't allow police officers to investigate a homicide in their own family, because they're too personally involved and they can't remain objective. And I feel like a lot of these people, and so, Giuliani's take on this whole thing, I think essentially was the same thing. It's like, Israel's got to do what it's got to do, and we're going to be better off for it. And it's like, because they still think that like it's a boogeyman and we have to defeat the boogeyman and that we have some tie to Israel that can't be broken. And it's just this very simplistic view of everything. And I think that's why we have to study history, because if you allow 9/11 to be just what it was, or the Kennedy assassination, that's why people ask me, why do you bother with this stuff that happened so long ago? Because it still matters. Frank, you're a big baseball fan. If you're a pitcher and no one can hit your sinker, why are you going to throw your curveball?
Because you're a Yankee.
You said it, not me. If you're a football team and your running back is getting 8 yards per carry up the middle, why would you throw a deep bomb, right? So it keeps working. And until we kind of awaken to some of this stuff and understand what actually happened in history, then we're going to be prone to falling into the same trap. So anyway, that was just an aside. And I feel the same way about Art Bell. I love listening to him. I love his ideas. I love his voice. I love a lot of things, but he has a very serious blind spot, and he gets into it with callers who want to defend like the militia movements and people that want to just like be left alone on their land. Like, oh, we're supposed to just leave you alone. Art Bell says to do whatever you want with your guns. And yes, you leave them alone.
I'm looking in vain, totally in vain for this one episode where it was just open lines and people were calling in, and it was after 9/11, and somebody called in. I think it was a caller from Maryland.
Okay.
And I know that I left a comment on whatever the hell it is. Maybe it's on YouTube instead. And I remember saying, the guy from Maryland, holy shit, he was right.
Really?
He called in. This was right before operations in Afghanistan and then Iraq started really kicking
I believe
off.
Art was a big fan of those. He was
yes.
all in for the war.
All in.
Okay.
Go get him.
Yeah, so let's just remember that.
And this guy called in, and shit, man, I really wish I could find it. But this is what I'm talking about. How lonely it must have been to be able to smell a rat back then. Because for as revolutionary as Coast to Coast was during those years, and bringing people in, and kudos to people like Art Bell for letting everybody state their piece. Man, oh man, they couldn't have been more wrong, especially on things like climate change.
Oh, Art Bell is obsessed, or was obsessed with that being the reality.
I think that he actually wrote some of the source material for what became The Day After Tomorrow.
He did. He did
that with Ed, with what's his name, the one who writes. I'm
not gonna remember
a lot of the. Who the hell? Who's the guy that writes all of the alien abduction books?
Yeah, I'm not going to remember. If you say it, I'll remember.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
He actually just put something out there because Greg Carlwood of the Higher Side Chats was on with me about a year and a half ago and read a really interesting testimony from it. Shit, it was right there.
Yeah.
But they're all in. They're all in with that stuff.
Oh, yeah. And he would find, constantly confusing correlation with causation and just not understanding the science. And always Art Bell was the thing that drove me crazy with it. He was very deferential to experts. And the one thing that I think we have learned now, COVID has been one of the greatest blessings for this, is that we have learned that while we need experts are not infallible. Experts must be questioned. They must still show the work, like your high school math teacher said. You can't just have the answer. You have to show your work so I know how you got there. Mm-hmm. He was very deferential to people who I would say, could have been very easily, especially in those days, kind of like the expert that, who's the physicist. Geez, you and I are terrible with names tonight. The physicist who was, the famous one that always.
Michio Kaku?
Well, he had him on a lot, but the other one, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay.
That guy, like he would, that guy, I believe is totally, he can't believe what he says. He must be some kind of controlled, like the approved scientist, because he's got the wrong opinion on everything. And he would defer to those people all the time. And if somebody brought something else to the table, Art Bell will dismiss them. And that's a huge mistake, because that's like saying, oh, so you're saying that regular people can't discern the world around them, that it's solely the position, job, and expertise of an expert to be able to do that? Come on. But that was Art Bell's shtick. So when Mike says that was the name, no, Mark. When Mark says that he may have been controlled, I could see that just based on the things that I've heard from Art Bell. And like a lot of these people, they go into places that make us think he's one of us, but in the end,
yeah. Whitley Strieber, thanks everybody in the chat room. Thank you, everybody.
The chat always knows.
That's that's who he wrote that with, right?
Yeah.
And Day Before Tomorrow. Thank you guys.
Full-on believer. We were about to boil. And I don't know what to, it's 2025. And then when you really break down some of the science, it's so thin. And I got into this because cows were being blamed. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. We had bison roaming the plain. We were so much more. There's like none of this makes any sense. And then you start to get into like how they're measuring it and ice core samples. And then you look at the EPA's data in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a rabbit hole that I never thought I would be in. I don't really want to be in it, but I had to for my profession. And so I can defend meat from a health perspective, and I can also defend it from a climate perspective. It's not driving climate change.
No, yeah. Oh, well, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Thank for God for that. But as I've been eating better over the last year or so, and I've been farting less.
Isn't that interesting?
Hey, let me ask you this. Before we get into any of the other stuff, have you ever done any work into body odor? Because what I have heard from people, body odor and smelly shit. What I have read over the years, I don't really have any bigger stinky problems than anybody else. If you're out there busting ass and either running around, working outside, you're sweating, you need a shower or whatever. Sometimes you come in and you smell like a water buffalo, whatever, you take a shower. But some people have claimed that no, I have perfected my diet and therefore my shit does not stink and I don't need deodorant. I do not get stinky. Is that possible? I can't find that to be possible.
Well, I guess there's a few ways you could look at this. Who's telling you that you don't stink? You? Are you the determining factor in whether you stink or not? Because I would ask if you're getting an outside opinion or if you're determining this for yourself, because very often we are not super aware of that. But I will say this, that based on the metabolic health, the microbiome health, there are a variety of factors that can cause body odor or feces to smell better or worse. So there is a spectrum. I don't know if you could ever get to a place where your shit literally wouldn't stink, but it is a variable, I guess, that is capable of being altered. So
Okay.
I'll just say that. I don't, there's a specific bacteria that really does a lot of the stinky work. So, I suppose if that was upregulated or downregulated, that could play a role. So there's definitely something to be said for that. I'm not sure you can eliminate it completely, but I can certainly look into it.
Oh, well, it's not really.
I'm going to do it right now.
honestly, it's not that important.
Okay. Right.
I have quite a few health goals and all that stuff.
That's less of one.
And so I'm not going to stop until my shit doesn't stink. So I don't really care. I just wonder because that claim has been made in my presence a couple of times. Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, who's telling you that, my friend?
I don't know.
Maybe you have just really nice friends.
Anyway,
no, everything's fine.
I'll just start taking a survey whenever I see people again. By the way, okay, let's see here. Anonymous says, "Hi Frank. Monday is my son Ethan's birthday. He's the one who calls in every year on Aurora's birthday. First time was at 5. All his idea. He listens with me 3 nights a week and thinks y'all are friends. A birthday shout out on his 23rd on the 23rd would mean so much. Anonymous, do me a favor. Email me so I do not forget. Email me so I do not forget. And I will tell my friend Ethan. I will make sure that I give him a big 9th birthday fist bump. We'll go boom, and it'll be good.
It's the last one in the single digits,
dude. That really hit me when I turned 10. When I turned 10, that really hit me. I had a moment, and now I know where Aurora gets it from.
Mm-hmm.
Aurora, she gets very emotional,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being like, "Wow, the last of the single digits."
That's incredible, Frank. Because I mean, when I'm that young, all I want is like my next birthday, and when's my next birthday? Like,
I did too.
I wasn't. Yeah,
I did too. But I had a moment. I had a moment to reflect to myself. I took account of things like that, and now I take account of those things more and more. And I think that's man, I'll tell you. I got tomorrow. This is really heavy. Tomorrow I'm going to a friend's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with this kid, and we were in a grammar school together until 8th grade. Then he went to another high school than me. But we worked together during high school at the pharmacy, and we were friends for a long time. And I heard he just died last week, and I heard that back in December. Well, I heard only about a week and a half ago. Now, my friend Joe back in December went to the doctor. He wasn't feeling good, and they told him he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And in 6 months, he's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I heard the shit I was hearing just a week ago that they were going to move him to hospice, and he didn't even make it that far.
Yeah.
But it's just, these are the things that you expect. You definitely expect as you get older, and that in itself is a hard weight to bear. That this is just something you must do when you get older. You say goodbye to people, and one day it's going to be your turn, and you just do the best you can with the time you have. But to hear this happen more and more, when we're talking younger and younger, and it's just, dude. Tomorrow is his funeral, and tomorrow will be his 40th birthday.
Oh,
I mean, it's really fucking,
yeah.
It's awful. And
I mean, and pancreatic cancer is incredibly aggressive, and
That's what I'm saying here. I got all the same questions anybody else does,
I
of
know.
course, and I there's nobody to ask and nobody I would dare ask.
No,
but
and it doesn't. For the emotional part of it, it doesn't matter right now. I think it's important for all of us to take stock of that because the elephant in the room is still the elephant in the room, and those of us who go on still have to reckon with those things because they could, there's still variables that we all have to understand. But that's not part of the emotional side of it,
I know, I know, and that's the thing here. It's easy to say, oh well, must have been this or that, but we also forget that as of 2019, cancer rates were only going up.
Mhm.
It obviously certain stops along the way there. You see moments of acceleration and all that, but this stuff is really, really, it's scary. It really makes time seem like it's nothing because there's nothing's really afforded to you, and I don't know. That's just something that's been on my mind all week on top of everything else.
Well, I think, Frank, this is why I do what I do, right? Like you and I have these great conversations that can go anywhere, but ultimately, keeping people out of the way of the oncoming train is that's like my modus operandi. And it's not just one thing. Nothing is one thing. That's not the world we live in. Like I was just breaking down this paper the other day with Daryl on our show about linoleic acid, seed oils, and a specific kind of breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer. So not estrogen driven, not hormonally driven. It's likely more metabolic, and it signals out of control cell proliferation. So people will tell you, mTOR, you got to suppress mTOR for longevity and for cancer. And they always tell you that's why you should stop eating meat. And here this paper is this brand new paper showing you a mechanism by which a man-made food, a frankenfood, a not real, linoleic acid occurs in nature, but what we have done is like concentrated it and put it in this form. And now we consume it as like a major source of calories. Mm. And so, I'm not going to go down a whole bunch of biochemistry rabbit holes. We do that in the episode to explain it to people. But the larger picture, and the reason I'm bringing it up, is that it is so multifactorial. Everybody I've ever known, everybody I've ever worked with, that has cancer, it seems to be coming, from a different place. But the truth is, ultimately, the body has ways of handling things. And it's only when its ability to triage a situation is overwhelmed by the insults of the environment. And that's why you and I said the elephant in the room, what happened in 2021 that was introduced to the public, that was experimental, that will always be, I think that's going to rewrite textbooks because we're going to have to account for that now going forward. But the food, the electromagnetic environment, the drinking water, the air, what are we pumping into the air? Whatever you think about chemtrails or whatever you think, we're doing some kind of geoengineering. We have no idea what that's doing to cancer rates. So all you can do, and this is why I think it's so important for your audience, you just control the controllables. I know it seems like when I work with people, they get frustrated because there's so many different directions that we have to go. But I try to focus them and say, listen, when things seem out of control, grab onto one thing that you can change and change it. And change it with like precision and with like it's the only thing that matters. Because eventually, I promise you, it will become second nature, whatever that is, right? And then you move on to the next thing. And that's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? You can't get overwhelmed by cancer or by diabetes or by anything. You have to break it down into the most simple parts. And then we just kind of move along the line and try to bring the body into a better place. And the body has an infinite potential to heal. Now, again, if someone is too far down the road, obviously it's not, the body, people say it's fragile. It's, it's actually a pretty incredible machine that can handle the environment, but we do get it to a point where it's unable to handle it. And that's what I try to do. I try to like help you get out of the way of that. And I was telling you before, like the food industry, everything that the Maha movement, they're all, you can say what you want about them politically, but they're doing something that's a service and they're doing a good thing. And that's why they're being heckled. That's why they're being made fun of. They're being gaslit. They're, because true health doesn't make anybody money. And unfortunately, the cancer industry is a big industry. They don't want you dead, but they don't want you cancer free either.
No, so, it does. And, again, especially when I held this up because I knew at some point, it's on my mind. It's going to, tomorrow morning is going to be, I dread tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm going to probably see so many people I grew up with at this church that we all, that's our parish where we all went to school, all those assemblies in this church. And now we're here for another one of our own gone. Because it's, things like this have happened before in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it just comes down to Iran, Israel, what's going on with Ukraine, or Bud Light and getting some transgender guy to rep their brand and all that shit. And then when something like this happens, when you don't have your health, or when somebody you love or somebody you know or whatever the hell, when something brings life and death into the frame, and all of a sudden life and health hangs in the balance, nothing matters, man. Nothing.
Yeah.
It seriously. That's why I try to stay lighthearted with this stuff as much as I can outside, just covering the news and then and whatever, because you always get these checks along the way. I wouldn't want to listen to this shit if I was really worried about something.
Yeah.
I'd want to take my mind off stuff, but I don't want to take my mind off of stuff with World War fucking III, because you know what? Sometimes that I'm just like, if the bomb's gonna fly, can you drop the first one on my house?
Yeah.
Just I don't want to. Just don't leave me behind suffering. Just drop the first one on my house.
Yeah.
And but all the other stuff is really painful sometimes. And I what the hell was it? I was looking at you ever watch The Sopranos?
I never have.
Okay. Well, there's a scene in it might be season 1 or season 2. I don't know. It's when the boss, I think it's season 1, when Jackie Aprile dies. He's got cancer. He's in the hospital, and throughout that first season there, he's doing better. He's in good spirits. Then he starts taking a turn, and you can tell where it's all going. But at one point there, Tony shows up to the hospital with news that they're in the motel business. Hey, we're in the and Jackie's just kind of like he's looking at he's taking his temperature, take his own temperature, analyzing the thermometer, comparing it to something else. Completely doesn't hear what Tony's saying. Tony's sitting at the side of the bed now, talking about this new great development in their business that they got into a little investment in a string of motels. I actually think that this was the Jews actually. But in either case, he's sitting there, and no matter what Tony says, he realizes he's not getting through to Jackie because it was just, maybe I should take it on the other machine. Maybe I should take it on the, that's all there is.
Right.
There's no motels. There's no nothing else. There is, I got a fee. It's just, you see the writing on the wall, and you're scared, and you're concentrating on something, and it's taking everything out of you. That's why I feel like it's going on. It's going to happen a lot more with people. Because, we're not getting, you think about what's been introduced into society over the last just 50 years. From the way that people are eating, from the companies that are manufacturing food, to how people prepare food, whatever the hell it is, what they're prioritizing with the food pyramid and all that shit. Mm-hmm. You think about how these things, we don't have hundreds of years attached to the current modern lifestyle.
No.
So regardless of what happened in 2020 and 2021, we're about to start reaping what we have sown over the last 50 to 75 years of going absolutely apeshit and inverting the entire concept of health, not even just consumption and our diet, but even just socially. And I feel like we're at a threshold right now where, hey, we're gonna have to buckle up to see what the fallout's really going to be.
This is interesting. Do you remember here? I mean, if you remember this, I would be shocked. But do you remember the very first question that you ever asked me? The very first time I was ever on your show?
No.
That would have been amazing if you did. We did not script that.
I'm not that good.
Yeah, I mean, but I just did. And you asked me. Okay, I was reading your bio, and what does ancestral health, looking at health through an ancestral lens, what does that mean? I think that was It might not have been the very first, but I think it might have been the first question you asked me when we were on Zoom together. And I was just looking at a picture of your teeth because back then I couldn't see you.
That's right. The old Quite Frankly logo.
Yeah. I'm like, this is weird. But anyway, the teeth are talking to me. And what you just said there, the reason that it reminded me of that is because that is what I'm trying to do. People like to make fun of certain, influencers. And I get the joke, like, everything is toxic. Everything is dangerous. Like you see those people on TikTok doing that thing where they're like, I can't eat this because it's got this. I can't eat that because, and all that is true. But it's not paralysis by analysis. It is to highlight the fact that you just said we have drifted so far away from what makes us human and how we are supposed to eat, how we are supposed to move, live, our light environment, everything. I'm not advocating for us going back to living in caves and eating, a woolly mammoth that was just freshly slaughtered down the street. Like I know we can never go back to that, but I'm trying to hearken us back to a time when we didn't have chronic disease rates at all. Our life expectancy was actually pretty good if you got past a certain age, because if you weren't, killed by an animal, you actually did live a very long life. That's another one of those incorrect arguments where people say, why would you want to, our ancestors only lived to age 30. No, that was their average lifespan because infant mortality was through the roof. So that skewed the numbers. There were plenty of people that lived into their 80s and 90s and further and if you look at some tribes around the world that are still relatively untouched by Western society, although nobody is completely untouched, you still see that. So I just want to bring us back to that, to real foods, to real, movement. Exercise in a gym just mimics the hunt or the gather, right? That's why we do that, because we don't move around very much anymore. And all of those things. I'll make a pitch for something that I just put out today. This video that I just made on saturated fat. That's one of the biggest ones. If I went out on the street with you today, Frank, we did a Quite Frankly Man on the Street. Saturated fat, good or bad? What do you think the percentage of people that would say it's bad?
Most of them.
Yeah, 90, 95%.
Yeah.
And I just did a whole big video on this, including breaking down Dietary Guideline Committee members' FOIA requests. There was a FOIA request on the 2015 Dietary Guidelines Committee where they're batting back and forth. How do we sort of spin this to the public, full well admitting that there's no evidence to support what they're recommending? It was fascinating. This was a paper from I want to say it was 2018 or so. So it's not even new, but I had never seen it before. And when I went through the paper, I found the citations and I went to the citations and you can download the FOIA documents. It was hundreds of pages. And I was reading it like it was a page turner. I was like, this is wild. These are people from Harvard, people from all over talking about we got to be careful because the Wall Street Journal is putting out an article about saturated fat and they're going to raise that whole debate again. And we should really get out ahead of this. Not is the science solid? Do we know this? It's they even talked about one paper where they were this flies in the face of all of our recommendations. And they bullet pointed it. And one of the Dietary Guideline Committee members says, well, we have a deadline for publication and this paper doesn't meet that publication. We can just not include the paper. And that's what they did. I went through the 2015 Dietary Guidelines, control Fing for that author to find the paper, see how they handled it. And they handled it by not handling it. Like Building 7, right? Just don't talk about it. That's And
now, but is that because of big saturated fat lobby or big unsaturated fat lobby, or is it because of just pride?
It's a mixture of everything. And you can even see it in some of the documents. But for a big part of it, people don't realize the sugar industry paid Harvard scientists to shift the focus away from sugar and on to dietary fat.
Okay.
And then the American Heart Association was essentially brought into being by Procter & Gamble, who sold vegetable oils. And so the American Heart Association was very happy to recommend polyunsaturated fatty acids, seed oils, because they improve your heart health. Well, they lower cholesterol. Whether that actually improves heart health is a whole other animal, right? And I do get into that a little bit. But this is so important. And you're like, well, why are we just talking about this one thing? Because it's critical, because every cell in your body has a lipid bilayer that's made up of fats. So the fats you consume, the quality of the fats you consume, and the quantities you consume dictates cell function. And when cell function starts to degrade, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, every disease that is plaguing modern man can be traced to fatty acids specifically. So I think it is unbelievably important. And I even, I said, like, this is one of the most important videos I've ever made. It's 14 minutes, but I said, I just think you should see what the experts knew behind your back, and you've been lied to. And you don't have to believe me. You can see it in their own words, but at least question the fact that, Frank, I was on here, showing you that life expectancy chart, right? Like, we're not going in the right direction. So when outlets like The Atlantic or whatever write an article, damning the Maha movement, it's like, are they perfect? No. But they are for the first time, we have an HHS secretary who's trying to do the right thing. And I give him a ton of credit, because can you imagine the bureaucracy that he is pushing against, the decades-long, Goliath that is just, the inertia must be incredible. And he's just like, no, I'm going to fire the entire CDC vaccine panel. I mean, that caused quite an uproar, right?
Yep.
But how are you going to start over if you don't start over? And I just applaud what he's doing. Am I going to criticize him if I think he does something wrong? Yeah, but it's constructive criticism, because I do believe that his heart is in the right place. And Robert Barnes says the same thing. He said, there's two people that I believe, that I know personally, that I believe their heart is in the right place. And I can't say that about most people. It's Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy. I say, all right, guys, then let's go. So I just, that's a little soapbox thing, but I just think it's really important, because you want to talk about chronic disease, and it stems from diet, because nutrition is the largest input we have when it comes to our bodies. Light environment is very important. Our food environment is very important. And our electromagnetic environment is very important. Grounding is very good for the human body. We don't do that much anymore. Real sunlight, not without sunscreen, that's very important. All these things matter. But our food, man, it's so adulterated and so far from what it used to be. That's why I try to make diet simple.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, in cases like my friend who just died, I just wonder. It's like, was it really?
I know.
The purely at that age, and I know that we're running out of youth capital here. That anything, once you leave your 30s, I mean, even before that, anything can happen. But again, what causes it? What contributes to it? And you hate to consider it, but
it's awful to think about, because it's people that you care about, and
before you get into that, just after the last time you were on this show, that's when Scott Adams made his big announcement that he had he said that he had the same exact cancer diagnosis as Joe Biden, who we have not talked about in a month now.
Yeah, it's true. Joe
Biden's diagnosis and who was hiding what, that has been gone. I mean, not that they would launch a war just over Joe Biden. We know that they were covering it up, but still, I mean, that seems like old news. And God knows what shape this guy's in. But Scott Adams essentially said that he's not going to survive this summer.
Right.
And then he said this. He put this out there. This was on May 22nd. He said, update number 1. He said, please don't recommend I take ivermectin or Fen-Ben. I tried that last year via Dr. Makis to no effect. There are claims of it working, but I'm aware of no patient who benefited from it. Neither are you. Please don't recommend fasting or any diet-related system. Someone credible would have noticed if that worked. Please don't recommend any cocktail of vitamins and minerals. I very much appreciate your caring, but I assume I've heard about all of the above. I'm overwhelmed with those same suggestions all day long. Now,
well, look, I get that perspective, because I never give advice unless somebody asks for it. I will never do it again. I've been down that road. It does not work. But he is still hamstrung by the same logic that potentially got him into this mess, right? If that is, in fact, what, got him into this mess. Because we do know, I think, very publicly that he was receiving all the...
whatever he could.
Yeah, because he was a big believer, right? And he has this really hard time just being truly open-minded to things. I have some respect for him in some ways, and in other ways, I'm like, man, there's still a real serious brick wall in your logical thinking. Like he said, well, you guys got it right in COVID, but not for the right reasons. You were lucky, right? It's like, no. See, again, I really just question a lot of his logical process, and the fact that he's panning something like fasting, which does have research. So you're telling me, again, after everything you just went through and potentially what maybe put you in this situation in the first place, you're going to trust the same people to get you out of it? You're going to tell me that you think that nothing else, no other modality that's been researched has any credibility because you would have heard of it by now? I mean, that's another logical fallacy. That's just not true.
But here's the thing: people will read this, and they're this nagging fear that I'm sure that many people have had in the back of their heads will come forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we live in a world where there is an increased level of chronic disease. We live in a world where we are giving frightening statistics of, you know, what the possibilities of a person having cancer in their life, or, you know, like in some way or whatever. We hear about that. We see autism. We see whatever. We see all these frightening statistics, and then we see things that give us hope. We see a reel that's just, you know, from a doctor talking about certain protocols and things like that are happening, or, you know, there are actual studies that come out and say, hey, you know, we're seeing some promising things over here, and you're saying, oh, maybe the tide is turning. Maybe people are looking, they're finding off label use for pretty safe pharmaceuticals that can help people in a pinch get their body realigned into a place where it can maintain homeostasis and get back to healing itself without being behind the eight ball. And then you get someone like Scott Adams, who, you know, I mean, in a state of despair, I almost want to, like, if I feel despair or, you know, just despondent, and I really feel like I've run out of options and something, I almost just, you know, throw on the don't talk to me about anything either. So perhaps he's just coming from that standpoint of he's assessing his own mortality. He thinks that time is running out. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there looking for hope who probably somewhere deep down inside really, really pray they never have to ever come to a decision point where they have to make that choice between allopathic modes of treatment and what I've been reading on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, because then it's just, because if you go one way is destined to be suffering and no guarantee that it's not going to come back raging worse and worse and a lot of recovery time. The other way is a lot less invasive, but, you know, if something doesn't work out, you're going to be ridiculed right to the end.
Sure.
You know, this is fun. And it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. And that's why I think that anybody who sees this, what's going on in society right now, in the world right now, wants to get as healthy as they can right now, in hopes that they never even get a diagnosis, because there is so much political tension built up around choices people make to treat something that is ailing them.
Right.
That's big. That's almost as big of a nightmare and uncomfortable as dealing with the actual thing.
I know.
It almost is the same kind of discomfort I feel about the answers I'm going to give, you know, people when they ask, oh, well, what schools are Aurora going to? Like, oh, she's homeschooling. You know, oh, but she's not going to make any friends. I get that over and over. You know, well, and then people start giving me a math test to make sure I know how to do algebra still.
Oh, no.
You know, I can see that. I can see that shit happening. She's only 4 right now, but I'm going to be getting a lot of questions over the next couple. And I almost feel like, you know, these new frontiers into medicine and health is the same way, because we're trying to break away from standards in education, in the way that we treat our bodies, but there's so much pressure, and you know, Scott Adams just brought up a whole bunch of shit when I saw that.
Well, you have to determine whether or not you're acting because it's easier to function in society by acting in a certain way, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's doing your health in a specific way, or whether it's truly what you want. And I think that's only an answer that you can come to on your own. And I don't begrudge anybody for anything. Everyone has to walk that path. You know, I do think, you know, the problem is that we also have a deficit of how doctors are trained. And if you don't understand that, it's very off-putting to understand that doctors really don't, and you can talk to doctors about this and they'll tell you, they don't really understand how the human body works other than like the first, you know, semester in med school. Like, I've talked to so many doctors who were like, yeah, I learned all that stuff that you talk about mitochondria and the energy production and the Krebs cycle and these systems. And, you know, but I learned that in like, you know, the first 2 semesters. After that, it's all just memorizing diseases and symptoms and pharmacology and all that stuff. So they want to remember any of that stuff they first learned. And I think that's pretty skillfully done. They have to go back to their textbooks from, you know, from 8 years ago or whatever. So they're just not trained to look at the body that way. And it's not their fault. It's their fault if they're arrogant about it in the face of failure. If they continue to not get results for patients. Like I remember the story of Dwight Lundell, who was a cardiac surgeon, and he just was sick of people ending up on his table. And he said, well, I'm gonna try to find a way to get these guys and girls off my table. I'm gonna do something to help preventative. And when he embarked on that journey, he was being patted on the back by, all his friends when he was doing open heart surgery. But then when he engaged in preventative care and he started teaching people about nutrition and exercise and lifestyle and all these things, all of a sudden he lost his medical license because he interrupted the business model. But that was a doctor who had to do some soul searching himself. But so many of them will just be like, well, look, I got to pay back my loans. This is the way I was taught, blah, blah, blah. There's so many reasons to not go the route less taken. But again, I'll just tell you from a big picture perspective, we're not healthy as a society. We're not getting healthier. We're getting worse. So if the doctors aren't smart enough to start making changes, they're going to become obsolete because AI is going to take over for them. Because what they've turned into is just vending machine doctors. Input symptom, output milligram doses of a drug or a surgery. Drugs and surgery, that's all. Cut it out or drug it. That's all they know how to do. And you have to care more about yourself than that, because you have to understand that sometimes surgery is necessary. There's a structural thing wrong. Sometimes surgery is necessary, but it's not always necessary. And it's very rare that drugs are necessary. So, and I know that's a bold statement, but my job is to, again, is preventative care, man. I can't tell you how many doctors, they don't even test for certain things. They'll let you get to a place, like prediabetes doesn't exist. It is diabetes in the making. They let you get to a diabetic state and then they tell you you have diabetes. But diabetes does not happen overnight. It is decades long. But because they don't test the right things, they don't know. And if they don't test, Dr. Lee Merritt told me one time, she's like, that's like that's the way they operate. Don't test, don't know. So don't have to worry about it. But then once you become sick enough to be called a diabetic, then they've got a whole shitload of things they can give you. Oh, but you're not diabetic yet. And it literally hinges on some arbitrary blood sugar number when you're at your doctor's office, which is the most insane thing in the world. I was just explaining this to a client last night. She's like, but, they've never tested my insulin. Why not? And I said, because they're not trained how. But her blood sugar was 100. I said, that's not good. That's not good for a 30-something-year-old. It's only a spot in time, but I want to investigate further. I want to understand why. And she's having symptoms. So I'm like, we need to and her doctor's like, no, everything's fine. Everything's not fine, right? But she will be the next diabetic statistic, and she won't have any clue of what happened and how she got there if she follows her doctor's advice. And I know I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you that to some degree, you have to take some amount of ownership in your own health, even though you don't want to, because you have no other option at this point. We have just gotten that far in society, in medicine, in all fields. And I'm hoping it changes. I'm working hard to change it on a grassroots level, but also, always happy to put my 2 cents in on a policy level to anybody who will listen. But at this point, you have to take some control because there's no other way to get there.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know. Well,
and your audience is doing it. I mean, they're a big.
We've got a lot of success stories in this audience already.
Yeah.
Just over the last, 4 or 5 years of you being guest.
And some of them I've never even officially worked with.
I know they've just taken concepts from our talks, and of course have written in. They've done little things.
Yeah.
Little things that have gone a long way. I think that I wonder how many hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds might have been lost out there.
Yeah.
Just by tweaking, when the last meal of the day is.
Absolutely, Frank. And I'll tell you, that's funny. That's exactly what I told this person who was struggling with some things. And I said, you feel like, she said to me, this is a very similar conversation. She said to me, I feel like who am I supposed to go to that has, when I'm talking to you, things are making sense, but who am I supposed to go to get these answers? How am I supposed to, it's like everything's all over the place. How do I know I don't have cancer? How do I know how I know, I don't have this, I don't have that. I said, listen, it's so easy to spiral, but let's control one thing. You're telling me right now that you struggle, with late night eating, and then you don't sleep well. And so your sleep is disrupted, which means you can't really rest and repair. So why don't we start by setting like a hard cutoff for your last meal of the day, 7 o'clock, whatever. You can control that. It'll take some time. You may not do it right every time. You may slip up, whatever, but let's find something we can grab onto and let's do that. And that'll help your body start to regulate at night and get more deep recuperative sleep. And then who knows, maybe a symptom will, but like, let's work on that one thing. And she found that to be like grounding in some way because she was just spiraling on this conversation. I was like, we just find one thing. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you just do something as simple as, I don't care if you're 600 pounds. I have some people that are just so overweight, they can't even really walk. I have a woman who's so overweight, she can't stand long enough at the stove to make a meal. That's really sick.
Yeah.
She's really sick. She was like 600 pounds, I think. Her BMI, I'd never seen a BMI that high before. I got to find one thing I can do with her. One thing. And I don't care how small it is. You may think it's no big deal, but it is a big deal, right? Because it just starts that snowball effect and that chain reaction.
Whatever happened with her?
She is still working on it. She's losing weight, and it's really slow because she's in her 60s. So, when you've been that big for that long, but she's still alive in her 60s, right?
Because I've had clients like that over the years too.
Yeah.
And, it's, of course, I wasn't on the nutrition end of things. I was more on the exercise end of things.
And that's hard for them too, exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you got to find the one thing they can do, right?
But like most things, there's no reinventing the wheel. Everybody is, especially in the fitness industry, everybody wants to come up with a new medieval torture gadget that you can use in your workout when, a squat has always been all you needed.
Right.
A lunge has always been everything you need. A plank, a push-up, a pull-up, what it's pushing and pulling and some legs and walking.
Walking.
Most people know this stuff, just like most people know, or I should probably cut off now. I don't need this extra sleeve of cookies.
Right.
But that's why people in your situation and most personal trainers and everything else in the health and fitness industry, they're really coming in more on a psychological level than anything else. That's usually where
habit change is very, very difficult because what got you sick in the first place is so often just ingrained in you, and it feels uncomfortable to make those changes. It's that's an adaptive mechanism as well. Your body, the brain can interpret change as danger, right? Because again, historically, change was danger. If you knew something worked, you knew there was a safe place to get food, you knew there was a safe place to sleep, why would you F with that? You know what I mean? Like, we live in a very different time now, but our biology still has the same inherent, you can call them flaws, but really the first time I was ever introduced to this term, I've probably said it on the show before, is evolutionary mismatch. Is like the way the biology has adapted over time is discordant with our current lifestyle, like you said. So we have to learn, and that's why I do what I do. Like, I'm trying to not put us back in caves. I'm trying to find a symbiotic relationship between our biology and our current technological advancements, including sometimes in food, our technological advancements.
Yeah. And this is why I was saying earlier before when you talk about fantasy and reality, this is the reality. This is more the reality side of thing that is ignored, while so much of our conscious life is dominated by things that are not necessarily unimportant, but not nearly as cosmically significant as our health and our family and our friends and our goals in life, and of course how we're managing this body of ours. So again, war, peace, fantasy, and reality. That's the title of the show tonight. And and this is a harsh reality too.
And it's funny, Frank. I think that's probably why you have me on the show often. And what's really funny is that since I'm a fan of the show, as well as a guest, I actually really enjoy the time travel, alien, supernatural. I'm drawn to that stuff. That, like, if I'm an audience member, it sounds so funny to say this, but like, I'm not as interested in what I'm saying. I'm more interested in what other guests say, but this is so important.
Yeah.
Because nothing else matters if you don't have that, right? And again, as humans, we're just really bad at thinking long term, and we always think there's going to be a tomorrow, and we always put off to tomorrow what we should be doing today. And, you know, if you're out there listening, you know, it's like, just do the one thing. Just do that one thing, whatever it is. And at first it'll feel weird and it'll be very intentional and you'll have to think about it. But I promise you that it won't always be that way. It won't. Eventually it will just be the way you do things and you will be better for it. So whatever that step is, whether it's literally just taking a 10-minute, 15-minute walk, that's fine. That's not a small thing. So, you know, do that thing now and you will reap the benefits in the long term.
Well, you know, with that, let us end by also reminding people that, it's June 19th now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do another show with you and have Molly be in on a segment of it because I know both of you guys are, Molly from Keto Brainz.
Mm-hmm.
I know that both of you guys are really on you've talked a lot in my presence about peptides.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other thing there? Bioregulators?
Yeah.
Bioregulators.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know what the hell these things are. I've been seeing all over the place. We got to do that.
Okay.
But who knows if that can happen before July 1st. But one way or another, starting that first week in July, we're going to be publishing the event page about the September event on quitefrankly.tv. We're going to be selling tickets starting on July 1st. We're getting all the last information hammered out right now. So you got to come on the show more often after that first week in July because you know, I want to interview some special guests with you. I just want to just hang out a little bit more and see what's going on in the news and shit like that. But also then we're going to be on a very quick 2-month slide into that first week in September.
Wild.
It's going to be wild. And just to think about hosting an event like we're going to be putting on that first weekend in September with all the people that'll be, I'm sure, coming in from all over the country for this limited room kind of cozy time. I can't wait to announce the special guests and how fun it's going to be, but you got to come back because we got to do a lot of updates on that as we add new elements to, you know, that very fun weekend that is going to be historic in this sense because it's the first time that Quite Frankly goes public.
I mean, how cool is that? And I love coming up to the studio because in reality, my favorite little organic market is like 15 minutes down the road. So every time I come up here, it's so funny. I bring a cooler. I throw some ice packs, especially today. I had to throw several ice packs in there. And I go into my favorite little organic market and they know me in there. Because when I worked at the hospital, it was right around the corner from the hospital. So they would always, they knew me from working there. And I tell them anytime I'm in the neighborhood, I stop by and I talk to the cashiers. And it's a great little place. But that's the kind of thing too, get in touch with your closer, with the people who are handling your food. And it's really fun. But anyway, yes. We're going to have these conversations between now and then at the event. I'm sure all the people that are there, I'm sure the conversations are going to be endless and interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, there'll be a panel. And I can't wait and it's not going to be health food all night. I mean, there's going to be a food element there. We're going to have a chef, and the people who provide the food like Neil from Peterson's Farm. That's going to be great.
I really hope he's able to attend.
If he comes in from Texas, this guy's he's with the cowboy hats.
So tall, such a great accent.
I can't wait. I can't wait. But I can't wait to see what kind of comic presence we have. I definitely want to find a way to get some really good things to do that night. As it's just going to be a social, people milling around, but
it's everything that your show is. When we were standing there at the location and I was thinking about the show and we were explaining it to the theater people, it was like everything that this show is about, the health, the entertainment, the comedy, the supernatural, the conspiracy, it should be a little bit of all of that in a contained environment in person. And that's the beauty of this show, is that it really is wide ranging. And I think that's exactly what we're going to land on. And I hope hopefully it's the first of many and hope people have a fantastic time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I hope that I want to be able to I want it to be so that the event is protested by the ADL.
Oh, okay.
That's how we'll know it's going to be very successful if it's protested by the ADL.
I think we can make that happen. Maybe if we're really lucky, maybe PETA will be up front too.
PETA, because there's going to be plenty of animals.
Absolutely.
Will have given their lives for that bacon. I already heard that we have at least 50 pounds of bacon coming in.
Yep. I talked to the chef and I said, listen, people expect things of me. Now, I know that not the entire audience is going to want to eat the same way they do at their retreat. So have no fear. There's going to be like your standard sort of like, appetizer stuff. But I said to Chef Nick, I said, listen, people expect things of me. If they show up, if there was no organ meat, if there was not liver, pate, or something like that, if people couldn't at least try it in my presence, I feel like I would get yelled at. I feel like people would be upset if that wasn't at least available. So I said to Nick, you and I are going to go over the menu over the next 2 months, and we're going to make it so that you can eat just your regular kind of food, but you're also going to get the chance to like dive into the deep end if you want to.
That's it. I can't wait. Let's get to some super chats before we leave.
Yeah.
Vesper says, always wonderful to see Jay in the studio. Revolution says, testing, 1, 2, 3. I hate this show. Hello, Jehoshaphat. Great to see you again. Frank, have you heard the good word about how our Lord and Savior, Methylene Blue, how's your... Of our Lord and Savior Methylene Blue, how's your VHS VSR coming along? VCR coming along? Do you prefer slapping or squeezing of ye old butt cheeks and Keto Brainz rules?
Greatest hits.
Peace out, Rev. I mean, he's got everything there.
Yeah, he got
everything's
it all.
in.
He got it all.
Everything is in there. Stephen and Lori. He left out a cat reference.
Ooh.
He left out a cat person reference. Stephen and Lori says, always a good time with Jorge in the house. Thank you both. Thank you, Stephen and Lori. Country Girl says, cheers. Vesper says, pieces of 8 or fine music makes no difference to me. One 'tis good as the other. Pieces of 8.
Huh.
That's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh.
I mean, or she might be talking about the silver round that we're about to give away. But I put all these names into the name picker already. Kay Landry says, I don't know why it came up as anonymous on the other super chat, but it should have said Kay Landry. I'll email you a reminder about the birthday. Thank you. You got it, Kay. And Amethyst Cat says, Jay always brings such good energy. Well,
thank you.
I'm glad you guys like it. Over on the Quite Frankly Rumble, Jay Semo says, you guys are on fire tonight. Great show. Miss Maniac says, by the light of the silvery moon, set the charge. Love, hugs, and persevere, y'all. Well, thank you for that. And then at the end, we have another one from Hey, Would You Blow Me Too? Says, hey, Zeus, if you don't eat, you don't shit. And if you don't shit, you don't... And if you don't shit, you die. So shouldn't we all eat, shit, and live? Well, yes. I don't think Jay has ever said that we need to stop shitting.
Yeah, no?
That's not...
No, that's a sign of bad things. That's a sign of bad things.
We need to stop them from shitting.
Elimination is good.
Good Lord. What has happened? Okay. Well, with that, I have Steve Robinson says, Jay's one of my favorite guests. Always stellar. That's on YouTube.
Thank you, Steve.
Running on Empty says, today's my lucky day. I hope we will see. Amethyst Cat. We got her in before, and then everybody else, Stostu, Bullish Brown, Dances with Squirrels, Joe Martinez, Shotzi, Road Trip, Jay Britz, Brian Mulaney. They're all in. So who has won the silver and the SpaceX patch? Who has won it? The first name is Joe Martinez. Joe Martinez. Get in touch with the show, Frank at quitefrankly.tv. You've got the SpaceX patch with a little bit of silver. I have to pair it with silver because that is what Grimbold72 said, that every SpaceX patch he sent me, I have a stack over here, they have to come with a little silver. So Tony from quitefrankly.gold was happy to oblige. The next thing, the album, the 2017 album that I'm very proud of, is going to, hold on, Jay Semo.
Oh.
There you go. One of the 3 Rumble ranters. So see, you have as good as a chance as anybody else, ladies and gentlemen. Jay, get in touch with me. I'll make sure you get some Keto Brainz, and I'll make sure you get some stickers and this. And Joe Martinez, remember, get in touch with me because somebody else won that those main espresso cups.
You're going to give them to me next time if no one picks them up.
I waited for and I put out a couple of calls. I waited for a week and a half, 2 weeks. I said, all right, got to give them out again.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, all in good fun. I love finding more things to give to you guys and gals, and perhaps they become more interesting. You know, my cousin Sherry, she is very good at thrifting and antique hunting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I told her, hey, let's find some really awesome pieces of history that we can give away as part of, you know.
That's a cool idea.
I know, like a bullet that was taken out of somebody's head.
I mean, you never know where you're going to find. I mean, she finds some interesting things.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
That's very cool.
All right. Well, I had other things we can do, but we're going to need another show for that.
You just want to do it? You just want to stay on until 10?
That'd be easy, man.
I know. One night we'll surprise you all. We'll just do like a 3-hour show.
Well, I mean, we can plan. If we plan ahead, we can go at least until 9:30 some night.
I'm always down, man. I mean, especially if it's like Thursdays are good. If it's like a Friday or, whatever. Yeah, I'm.
Okay.
It was a good back and forth, and really we kind of like went all over the place, but somehow we managed to circle back to the sort of main theme. I think we really did.
It is.
You know?
There's a lot of things that are happening in the world and in our country and in our backyard. Many of them are very consequential, and they affect us. To say that a new or an old war doesn't affect us in some way, either by the lives that are lost, the turned up on their heads, the economic disruption, 100%. But then there are the wars of the hearts and the minds. We get several layers on that. It confuses the way that we perceive things. It just makes everything more confusing and more stressful. And I'll tell you, it comes down to micro levels there too. But then the most micro, which is also macro, is your health, is your mindset, and is the health of your social life and your family life, and of course your body. And anybody knows who's anybody, that even the common cold makes you want to throw the world away. So if I especially if I have ever had like some sort of like an upset stomach, or I knew I was going to throw up or something like that, I can't tell you, Jay, this is me. Every time that I've gotten like I've had a stomach bug, or I've eaten something that didn't agree with me, whatever the hell it was, and I'm just hanging over that toilet and it's time to go, or even in between retching, I literally I am in full communion with the Lord, and I just simply say, "Oh, Tom, fine, die.
Take me now."
I'm die. And I'm not joking either. I'm not joking either. Sometimes you feel so miserable that it's just like, okay, uncle, that's it.
Nausea is a very interesting thing.
Nausea makes me want to give up on life.
It really does. You're like, you want to make so many different decisions, or make different decisions when you're experiencing nausea. It's very interesting how the brain works.
Dang it. Just over the toilet. End it all. I'm okay. I lived enough.
Oh, I got this.
I lived enough. All right.
Then you feel like just a total asshole when it's done. You're like, was it really that bad?
Yeah, well, you know what?
It wasn't that bad.
Hopefully it's over. I'm just going to go sleep.
I wasn't serious.
No. Keep me alive now. Anyway.
Good thing God doesn't take you literally.
No.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he has to have a sense of humor if he made us.
Absolutely.
But I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I don't know who will be here with me just yet, but we'll figure something out. I think I got Scott. You want to talk about something that you need to listen to. It's probably going to be on Monday the 23rd.
Okay.
Scott Shara is coming back.
Oh, yes. I know that story well.
He believes, and because I'm on one of his newsletters, his mailing lists, he thinks that they're going to be getting a verdict in Grace's trial as early as tomorrow. I
was going to say, because he really can't come on the show until that's said and done, right? Okay.
Right. So
that's a big deal.
We don't know what the verdict is. It's the first of its kind. It is. It's huge.
Yeah.
And in one way or another, he's going to be on the show on the 23rd. If we have a verdict by then, so we may be one of the first interviews he gives.
That's great.
I don't know what he pre-records over the weekend, but either way, it's going to be great to talk to him.
Absolutely. No monetary settlement is going to make up for what happened, but he deserves something.
Yes.
And we all deserve answers.
Absolutely. So there's things to look forward to over the weekend. Keep an eye out for that. But we will be back on tomorrow night, and maybe we'll do a little bit more open lines. We weren't able to do that tonight, but so goes the world. And
This happens here.
good night, Jay. Thank you for everything. Find Jay, PerpetualHealthCo, on Rumble and on Instagram.
Yep.
Very active there. He puts out incredible stuff that is worthy of not only studying, but sharing. And anything else you want to tell people or plug?
No, just maybe you have been responsible almost solely for my Twitter account, which is actually, starting to gain traction. But the big ones are Instagram and Rumble, but Twitter, I'm just at Jay Gulinello.
Yep, Jay Gulinello.
Yeah.
Which was actually at my urging.
Yes, it was.
So Jay, you got to PCH underscore J. PCHO underscore J. No, Jay. Jay, do it.
I thought you could search just with the name, but you really kind of can't on X. Whereas like on other, like if you type in Perpetual Health on Rumble, I'll come up. If you type in Perpetual Health on Instagram, I come up. On Twitter, it doesn't necessarily work like that, or at least not when I was trying it. So I was like, oh, he's right. I definitely got to get my name. So anyway, yeah, that was like an old account I had when I was doing more acting but anyway, yeah, so I'm super active there and you'll find all kinds of stuff and that's it.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody, I want to thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to our wonderful friends at Badlands. It's really a tremendous audience over there. If you like what you see here, we do this every weeknight at 7:00 on Quite Frankly, all over the place, Rumble, YouTube. For some reason, we're still there, but things are actually getting a little bit more help. People are not only getting their channels back, some people are getting them back, but people are getting remonetized. I mean, I got super chats back.
I heard, who said this the other night, that somebody kind of relatively controversial got their channel back on YouTube.
Jason Burmis said some people are getting them back, but people are getting remonetized. I mean, I got super chats back.
That's fantastic.
That was Jason Burmis said that he got remonetized. James Corbett is back.
That was the one. That was the one.
I mean,
he was one of the first ones to. Well, I don't know if he was one of the first ones to go, but I remember finding him and being like, "Oh, this guy's really cool." And then, he was gone pretty fast.
Yeah.
During that was like the COVID purges, I think.
Oh, they're trying everything they can to compete again. They know that they lost a lot. I mean, it's Google, so they're doing fine.
Yeah.
But they're trying to cut in on the YouTube, the TikTok, with the way that they're retooling the shorts and stuff. But who knows? Whatever the hell it is, weeknights 7:00.
Absolutely.
Quite frankly, and I will see you tomorrow night at 7. Thanks everybody. Have a good one and be well.
I'll catch you on the flip side.